Uncle Mark.
Hosanna.
Hosanna.
Wow. To God and the Lamb.
To God and the Lamb. Yeah.
Nevermo listeners might have heard of the name Nephi, perhaps in the context of a joke told at a conference a few years ago that we need less Wi-Fi and more Nephi.
They did say that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Wait, who said that?
forget.
The Mormons in the general conference?
Yeah, it was a 70s or something like that.
Yeah, one of the under 70-year-old
The
youngsters
joke's
made a
on
crack.
them. I got my Nephi through my Wi-Fi.
Well,
so.
and as I'm sure Uncle Dan will explain to us, Nephi is not only a prominent character in the Book of Mormon, he's 4 books of the motherfucking Book of Mormon.
Yeah, well, and non-Mormons will know him as Nephi.
That's right. We'll get to whether or not Nephi is 4 books, or whether it's more than one Nephi. That's part of this whole thing. I'm
already hating this.
Yeah. Oh no, it's so bad. It's just gonna be just bad the whole way through. Because look, we've waded into this bubbling pond of raw sewage that is the founding document of the cult of our birth a few times.
Yeah.
To members of the Mormon Church, there is no more important or more perfect book from here to the planet Kolob. But the Book of Mormon, as we've pointed out before, will tell you nothing about Mormon theology or give any insight into why they live and think the way they do. But man, it sure is a book. Like a super long, incredibly boring book.
Of all the books written by man, this is one of them.
This is certainly one of them.
Yeah.
For those who don't remember our previous forays into the quagmire, here's a little refresher. The Book of Mormon starts in ancient Jerusalem. God tells one family to get the fuck out because shit's about to hit the fan there. But instead of telling them to run away to Egypt or Persia or something, God teaches them how to make a boat. And this is one hell of a boat, like seaworthy and capable of crossing the entire Atlantic Ocean. And off they go to the Americas, and that's where where the American First Nations people came from.
Yeah.
Seafaring Jews.
Yeah.
So that all happened. Well,
600 BCE.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. It didn't actually happen, but it happened in the book. And we know that it's 600 BCE because of what is said much later. And that is the story that I am going to tell today. Because, friends, when Jesus died in the Bible and then came back to life and then just kind of left,
Yeah.
well, I hate spoilers as much as the next guy, but our friend Joe Smith knows exactly where he went. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, he had a connecting flight, let's just say.
Exactly. Just a quick aside to our listeners, as a word of warning, as a caution, do not waste your time reading this book.
Please don't.
It's really bad writing. It just so bad.
It will do is make you mad
Yeah.
that you wasted. You could have read something else. You
Yeah,
could
we're
have read
doing
the
it
Penthouse
professionally.
Forum.
We're doing it as our job. There's no reason to do it just out of your own fun curiosity.
Yeah.
As an example to why you shouldn't read this book, note that the King James Bible is almost exactly 3 times longer than the Book of Mormon, which tries really hard to emulate the style of the King James.
Mm-hmm.
But where the Bible uses the phrase, "it came to pass" 727 times, the much shorter Book of Mormon uses that same phrase 1,404 times.
Twice the number.
It came to pass averages once in every 5 verses.
The book could be summarized as "it came to pass, the end."
Right. And let's point out that phrase doesn't actually have a meaning or a useful purpose. It's just filler. And it's literally 2.5% of the words of the book.
It's just reminding you that the story takes place in a sequential timeline.
Right.
Right, which you're just assuming anyway.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't need it. And also what happened was...
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
so
then...
Our reading today comes from the book of 3rd Nephi, which is about 3/4 of the way into the Book of Mormon. Now, anyone who's a little familiar with the Book of Mormon will recognize the name Nephi, as Uncle Doug said, and might know that 1st Nephi and 2nd Nephi are the first and second books in the Book of Mormon, named after the main character in the story of the Exodus from Jerusalem. But this isn't that Nephi. This is another Nephi, 600 years later. And if that isn't confusing enough, allow me to share with you the little preamble at the beginning of 3rd Nephi, which seems to be there to help us keep everything straight. It says, "And Helaman was the son of Helaman, who was the son of Alma, who was the son of Alma, being descendant of Nephi, who was the son of Lehi, who came out of Jerusalem in the 1st year of the reign of Zedekiah, the king of Judah." I hope that clears everything up. If not, here's some further clarification from 2 verses in. "And Nephi, the son of Helaman, had departed out of the land of Zarahemla, giving charge unto his son Nephi." That's right. Okay, everybody got it? Good. Moving on. Sidebar. Doug, do you want to remind us about the apologetic that you once tried to dazzle Mark into believing into this book again with?
Which one was that?
It was, there's so many names apparently made up in the Book of Mormon, but as Uncle Dan has demonstrated, most of them are either repeats or just slight variations on a theme.
Right.
And they're like, no one can make up this. Joseph couldn't have made up the Book of Mormon. Can't be done, because no one can make up that many names. I'm like, I'm going to fucking bury Mark with this. And I threw it at him, and he's like, time me. Zebediah, Zebedibah, Bop. Then it just like, I stood there just deflating. Like, God damn it.
Chihai, Falahai, Hananhai.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You make 10 base names.
Anti-gravity Lehi.
Yeah, and then you just add 2 letters to the front and back of each one, and you just keep,
just keep going.
Yeah.
Anyway, 3rd Nephi opens like a QAnon fan fiction dictated to the My Pillow guy by Sean Hannity looking into a hat. The good guys are despondent because they have faithfully believed all the prophecies about amazing stuff coming, and the bad guys are finally getting bad guys finally getting what's coming to them, and none of it seems to be coming true. On top of that, the bad guys who don't follow the prophecies have now declared that anyone foolish enough to believe in all that stuff will be put to death. Skun-dun-dun. The evil non-believers were like, see, the election happened and you guys and your guy didn't win. The lawsuits all went nowhere. The Electoral College voted for our guy like they were supposed to. Then the Congress didn't stop him, and neither did the Vice President. And now inauguration is about to happen. Now, this was extremely worrying to the good people of Q. The Nephites. So, on the eve of the inauguration, Nephi, son of Helaman, son of Helaman, son of Alma, son of Alma, descendant of Nephi, bowed down and prayed to the Lord. He said, "Please, don't let the evil Marxist globalists come into power and kill us all who believed in the prophecies." And the voice of the Lord spoke to him in a message from 8chan, which said, and this is a quote from the book, "Behold, I come unto my own, to fulfill all things which I have made known unto the children of men from the foundation of the world, and to do the will both of the Father and of the Son, and of the Father because of me, and of the Son because of my flesh. And behold, the time is at hand, and this night shall the sign be given." And Nephi apparently understood what the fuck that all meant, and was very excited. I'm sure you guys followed that just fine.
Yeah, completely.
I'm sorry, I blacked out there for a second. What?
Right? Anyway, Nephi grabbed his bullhorn and his fur hat with horns on it and painted his face and went into the world to watch the shit hit the fan. And because this is fan fiction and not reality, it all came true. That night, the sun went down, but it stayed light like daytime all night long. Which sucks if you want to get a decent night's sleep, as anyone who's ever been to Iceland in midsummer can tell you, but is a really good sign that something crazy is happening and very difficult for the bad guys to deny. And all the bad guys rescinded their order to kill the good guys and had to admit that they were idiots and that Q had been right all along, and they were really afraid because they had been real dicks. So, the sun rose on the next morning, and they all knew that this meant that the Son of God had been born on the other side of the world. So, hooray, I guess. I mean, not sure how much that changes things all the way over here in the Americas, but it's Jesus, that's pretty great, even if it is 7,000 miles away. Also, a new star appeared, so, that's neat, too, I guess. Now, mind you, this is the Book of Mormon, so immediately after this miraculous night, a bunch of people started explaining everything away and saying that these weren't really the signs, or as the Book of Mormon puts it in what, I shit you not, is one single sentence. And it came to pass that from this time forth there began to be lyings sent forth among the people by Satan to harden their hearts to the intent that they might not believe in those signs and wonders which they had seen, but notwithstanding these lyings and deceivings, the more part of the people did believe and were converted unto the Lord.
It's it's almost too clear.
It's right.
The writing.
Right? Yeah.
It's like
Joe
Hemingway.
Smith, it is. It's too to the point.
Yeah.
Maybe get a little flowery with it.
Dress
Have
it
some
up a
fun
little
with the
bit for
language.
us, won't you?
Yeah, no. Joseph Smith did not suffer from an overabundance of brevity or clarity or just writing ability in general.
Listen, punctuation's a bitch when you're chiseling it into a gold plate.
Right?
Yeah. And for Never Mormons out there, the first draft of the Book of Mormon, when it was taken to the original typesetter to print, had no punctuation.
Oh, my God.
There was not in the whole manuscript, there wasn't a single period or a comma.
Now, I just want to point out another apologetic while we're doing this. There's a Mormon apologetic that, and it came to pass, is a single glyph of Reformed Egyptian.
Right.
So when we read it in English, in ye old timey English, it seems rather cumbersome. But for the writers of the Book of Mormon, it was just a little chink chink. Okay. Then after, and it came to pass, if you listen to the rest of that sentence that Uncle Dan read, tell me how there's some kind of brevity in the writing of this book.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And let's not forget that all of this was chiseled into one of the heaviest metals known to man and then carried around by Joseph
and not
Smith.
a very heavy, but not a very large book.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Joseph Smith did not. So yeah, there you go. Joseph Smith wrote all that. So Nephi and some righteous buddies went out and they were like, "Hey guys, let's all be good, okay?" And for the most part, everybody agreed. And at this point, Joseph clearly ran out of plot and just vamped for a minute. Everyone was at peace, but then some people were wrong about the law of Moses for a second, but then they got that straightened out, so that was okay. So there was more peace for a while, and everybody's pretty cool. And
this brings up something that I think is really important, Dan, that a lot of people don't really put together with how shabbily the book is written, is that he was just making it up on the spot and saying it out loud. Mm-hmm. Right? He was vamping. He literally, he wasn't reading anything he'd written. Right. He was just saying it through a curtain to his stupid friend who was writing it down on the other side.
And as it turns out, that is a terrible way to write a book. We'll get to more of that. But suddenly he came up with Gadianton robbers.
Yay!
He remembered he had bad guys from the last book. So there you go. He's got some guys living in the hills. That's kind of like a plot. So there are a few chapters of wars between the Nephites and the hill people robbers. But if you were hoping that these would be exciting, well-written wars, oi, you do not know this book. It's literally, they fought and it was bad. And then another year passed and then they fought again. And this is a fun little side note in all of this. The Gadianton robbers weren't just attacking the Nephites. They also attacked the other Book of Mormon bad guys, the Lamanites.
Wow.
Now, these are the descendants of the first Nephi's brother, Laman, way back at the very beginning of the book. The Lamanites were evil, so God, I'm not making this up at all, had cursed them with dark skin, which... Yikes. But now we're closing in on the end of the book, So we needed some more yikes. So Joseph Smith does not fail us on that point. The Lamanites, seeing common cause with the Nephites against the robbers, turned good and joined up with the Nephites. And they were accepted, and everybody was really nice and kumbaya about the whole thing. And guess what? A miracle! Because the Lamanites were nice now and repented of their evil ways, quote, their curse was taken from them, and their skin became white like unto the Nephites, and their young men and their daughters became exceedingly fair, and they were numbered among the Nephites and were called Nephites.
Oh, dear.
And that's the most recent edit of the book. That's not the part that was expurgated from the original for being too racist. That's the part they kept.
That's the one that's still in.
That's still there, baby. Yeah. So fun, right?
Yeah.
We're having fun here, people. Then you get 3 more chapters of the Nephites, including the newly bleached Lamanite brothers and sisters, fighting against the robbers. It's again alarmingly boring. Just shocking. No human interest, no context to get engrossed in, just fighting, and then not fighting, and then fighting again. And then that's all over. And suddenly, out of the blue, the guy who's writing all of this introduces himself. It's Mormon, the guy the book's named after. Why are we learning this now, in the middle of a story, in the middle of chapter 5 of a book? Fuck you, that's why. It's almost like Joseph Smith just literally ran out of gas entirely. The poor guy.
What's that hilarious scene in The Holy Grail where they're being chased by the monster and the animator has a heart attack and that's how they get out of it?
Right,
Yeah.
Literally.
It's like if you've ever had like an 8-year-old or 7-year-old describe to you a story they read or a movie they liked, and there's all this, and then they ran over there, and then those guys came back and they were bad, and so then he went back to his house. It's like that.
Yeah, it is like that. But it's so weird that just literally in the middle of a chapter with no reason for it, it's just like, and by the way, I'm the guy who's writing this. My name's Mormon. Hi.
Hello,
man.
When you're choosing a storytelling technique, the best way to choose is to all of them.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
So this is how we know, as you said, Uncle Mark, that dictating a book is not the best way to write.
No.
Now, this whole time, the book has been numbering the years since the big night of no light. Like, year by year. In the 13th year, there was peace, but in the 14th year, there was war, like that. A device that clearly Joseph just trapped himself into doing, and now he has to write a shit ton of filler, while on the other side of the world, Jesus is growing up and preaching in the temple and riding on donkeys and shit.
You know what's funny about that is the gospel writers didn't feel the need to fill in that period of time.
Right.
But Joseph Smith did.
Literally, they skipped all those years.
Yeah.
But Joseph couldn't figure out how to do that. So Joe has the Nephites win, and the Gadianton robbers all either forsake their evil ways and join the goodly Nephites, or they get punished, which I assume means killed. But now we're back to no story again. Because Joe has run out of bad guys once more. So he does what any good writer would do. He dives into construction and infrastructure projects. Which, that's true.
Infrastructure week.
He literally, new cities were built, old cities were repaired, highways were put in, and people had continual peace. So,
Oh my God! Tell me more.
isn't that great?
This is written by the same governing philosophy as the fucking prequels.
Exactly. I was just going to say.
This is
more
look,
parliamentary procedure.
suddenly the prequels
That's what I
seem
want
like
from Star Wars.
those prequels are starting to seem really well written to me as I read as I read this.
Yeah.
So This has gotten us through to year 29. Aha! But what happens in periods of great prosperity? Rich motherfuckers. And then there's disparity between the rich and the poor. And that leads to contention. And the rich assholes think they're better than everyone else. And they start hoarding the wealth. And then that brings about institutional poverty, which led to less opportunity for education. And all of this, the building and revitalization of civilization, the blossoming of commerce, the economic explosion, the social stratification, the income inequality, and educational disparity between the rich and the poor, leading to wildly differing outcomes and contention between the different segments of society. And leading to the church breaking up because everyone but a rare few thought they knew better than the church. All of that happened in the space of 3 to 4 years. So, productive times, baby.
Yeah.
And it must be reiterated. It must be reiterated that this is the religion of Mitt Romney.
Right?
Right.
It's amazing to me. I literally read that part a few times just because it's kind of very woke. It's very anti-wealth and anti-rich and anti-blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that is not the church of today.
No, but so is the New Testament.
Yeah.
And, look at American Christians today. They're the Creflo Dollar and Joel Osteen, and it's just ridiculous.
And all of them are seething in jealousy over the fucking hoard of gold that the Smaug of the Mormon Church is sitting on.
Exactly.
So there you go. I'm actually going to leave it here.
Go on.
Oh no, yeah, more.
No. There's actual plot coming. So next week I'm going to bring you the exciting conclusion of Third Nephi.
Third Nephi Part 2.
When he actually starts to have a plot again. I think he found some uppers for the second half. So
all right, that announcement, Dan, should have been accompanied rather than with trumpets, but with a slide whistle.
Well, we can't afford it. So
yeah, we don't want to get sued by big slide whistles. So look for Third Nephi Part 2 next week, everybody.
Woohoo!
If you still listen to the podcast.
That's right.